Hey guys, welcome to Adobe Animate CC. We're going to get familiar with the interface here, talk about the tools, the setup, and how you can adjust this to make it look how you want it to look. So when you open up Adobe Animate, this is what you're going to be seeing at first. There are different formats in which you can use Animate. One of those formats is to use it as a web-based animation tool. So animating buttons or actions when you click on something and you have a reaction or another window popped up, that would be also created and animated here. So that's going to be more for these settings here, which we may get into later. But for right now, we're dealing with we're going to be dealing with just simple like frame animations, things like that that don't require coding just yet. So ActionScript 3.0 is the go-to format for our class. Don't get it confused with these down here. We're just going to deal with the regular ActionScript, and so click on that, and you'll see what pops up is what's known as your stage. And your stage is basically like in Photoshop, they call it your canvas. In Illustrator, they call it your artboard. This is another way of just describing your workspace here. We have our workspace, and what we can do here is adjust the size of a workspace. Right now it's at a default size, and we can change this to make it a default later, but let's go ahead and make it compatible with most videos that we see on our phones and YouTube and things like that. So let's go ahead right here off to the side where it says size. Click on the W for width, and let's change it to 1280. And then you can switch over to the height and make that 1080. And we should be left with our size stage here now. Now let's make it fit in window, and there we go. So something's not right about this size here, so I think I need to adjust something in just a minute. Let me see what's the actual size for that format. All right, so I was wrong. It's not 1280. I got that mixed up. It's 1920 for the width, and that gives us our size. So make that adjustment and fit in window again, and this fills up your frame pretty well. What you're going to notice a little different about your setup than mine, yours is probably going to be set up in what's known as Essentials. And so this is your workspace setup, and so this is where you can adjust and save your own personal settings for this program. So you notice how it's laid out. The tools are over here on the right, which is way different from most other Adobe products. If you've been playing around with Photoshop, Illustrator, you'll know that your tools typically go over here off to the left side. So what I'm going to do is grab that toolbar, and I'm going to move it over here and see that blue line, and I'm going to snap it into place right there. I don't want it quite that wide, although if you prefer it that way, that's fine. I like to keep it a little bit, I like my workspace being a little bit larger, so I'm going to scrunch it down using the double arrows and squeeze it towards the wall over here on my monitor. And now I've got tools set up over here. I've got my workspace, my stage. My timeline is down at the bottom. I have my properties over here off to the side, which will change depending on which tool I have selected. So to get back into our workspaces here, so you have different go-to workspaces that you can change it to. Now that I've changed it, what you can do now is go to, and I have my own custom one, which is my own personal settings. And what you can do is also set up yours. So once you move this around, what you can do is click on New Workspace, type in your workspace. I already put in mine. I've just titled mine with my name and workspace, and click OK. And that way, if you should ever get back onto this program and you notice that everything is in a different spot or messed up, not the way you left it, you will have your workspace saved up here. So if someone else comes in and sets up a workspace differently, you can open up the same program, set it to your workspace, and everything should be good. So that way you can just go to your workspace, and I have some presets here that I already have set up. certain things with my timeline, how I like to have it set up as well. All of that pops up the way I want it. So here I go. We have selection tools, we have sub-selection tools, we have free transform tools. A lot of this is no different than what you've seen before in Photoshop and Illustrator. But we can't do anything yet with these because we don't have any objects drawn. Lasso tool, another selection tool, and a 3D rotation tool, which we'll get into later. So let's take a look at some of our drawing tools here, or art tools. We have your typical pen tool, which you have in both Photoshop and Illustrator, and it basically works on what's called a Bezier tool. It's a curve where you drag lines out, and basically you have these control handles where you can twist and turn the lines to make it a really smooth curve that we can work with later. So that is one tool that we can play around with. Now, when you create that line with the pen tool, you'll see that for each segment, it kind of chooses like a separate section. If you want the whole thing to be selected, and this goes with most any of these drawing tools, double click on it and the whole thing will be selected. Now this is what's called a stroke. And so over here you'll see fill and stroke underneath the properties panel, and you can change that setting to be whatever you want. So you notice that this is the stroke color, and you also have a fill color, which this tool does not use. You can change the size of that stroke. So once it's all selected like it is here, I can change the width of that. I can change the style of it as well. You can also change the different width tools, give it a different kind of a look to it. So there's different styles that you can use here. So these tools are readily available for most of the drawing tools that we're using here. Your text tool works just like a text tool in any other way. You have your size over here in the properties panel. You can change the size of your font as you see fit. Letter spacing that you can do as well. Color is set to green. So once I start typing, here we are. You can then select these and you can adjust them as you see fit. So you can also change where it's placed up here on size, position, and size. And so you can do that, move it up and down. You can change how wide it is. So if you wanted to add extra words, you can make the space for it here. Or if you want it scrunched down, you can do that as well. So different fonts. And so once you select this, you can go through all the fonts and change it to what you like. So you see now that doesn't fit. So what I could do is come up here, change it to make it wide enough. Scroll this out. There we go. And now I have my tool. I can also grab it, and with my transform tool, I can grab it and move it around where I want. So now let's get into our line tool. This is basically all it is. It's a line. So as I draw it, it creates a stroke, or basically, yeah, a stroke. It's not a fill. And as you draw this out, you can drag a point and out to wherever you want. You'll notice that you can go all full 360 degrees. If you wanted it to snap to certain angles, like perfectly horizontal or vertical, hold the shift and it will snap into those places. It will also snap into perfect 45-degree angles as well. So something simple to do with that. Let's look at the rectangle tool. So here you have different options. You can draw out your rectangle. You'll notice that your rectangle has a stroke and a fill. And so to select this, I can grab this right here, but you'll notice it's only going to select the center portion. If I double click, it selects the full thing. And so now I can change each of these settings separately. So I can change that. If I want to go back to this, I can just select that by itself and find a different color for it. So those are some of the basic drawing tools. We'll get onto it onto more of it in the next section. So thank you.